Hi, and welcome to Kidney Plugged In. On this Kidney Health Month episode, we introduce you to kidney patient David McKay from West Kelowna. Although David was diagnosed with kidney disease in his 20s, it wasn't until his mid-50s that David's kidneys began to fail. David began his journey on dialysis 16 months ago and has kept diary entries to document this experience. And he's here to share many of the lessons he's learned along the way in hopes of helping others who may be traveling a similar journey with kidney disease. You'll meet David next, right here on Kidney Plugged In.
This goes back to when I was about 26, 27 years old. I was in college, just finishing college, and went for a regular routine checkup. I was having a little bit of trouble with kidney stones and just, typical urinary tract issues. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor just did your routine blood tests. And then I got a phone call later on from the doctor several days later that just says, it's unusual, but your kidney function is dropping slightly. So just be aware of that. Keep an eye on it. You're at about 90% function. And I guess at the age of 26, I should still be close to full function. And 90 would be a fairly substantial drop for somebody that was my age. So that's when I was first kind of aware of it. And then I really didn't think too much of it for many years to follow. I did have several kidney stone attacks and blood in my urine and these type of things, but it wasn't, the doctors never made it sound like it was really that unusual. It was just like, just keep an eye on it. And they did some ultrasounds and some intravenous pyelograms and some numerous types of testing. And they said I had kidney stones that were inside my kidneys, but they were too small to do anything about and just to keep living your life and what have you. So that's what I continued to do. And as time went on, the doctors were bringing it to my awareness that my kidney function was slowly dropping. And as I got into my 50s, I was down to around 50%. And so I knew with the doctor's warnings that things were definitely progressing. And they kept referring to a thing called IgA nephropathy. And that they would, based on the amount of urine or blood that was in my urinary tract and so on and so forth, they're assuming and making the diagnosis that I have IgA nephropathy. I then had a kidney doctor that I was assigned to, and that doctor followed me for many years prior to me actually starting to have kidney failure. And that went on for, several years, probably 3 years here in Kelowna. I went to that doctor and he would do the regular testing, and it would slowly progress down to where I was at about 30%. And I was still traveling for business. And the symptoms started to progress at this point. So up until that point, at 30% and better, I really didn't have any severe symptoms other than the doctors telling me I have a progressive disease that's attacking my kidneys and my function is dropping. At about 30%, I really started to feel the symptoms. So while I was on the road in my business, I traveled between Australia, Canada, and the US. And what would happen is sometimes I would start to get unusual cramping. So it could be in my rib cage, it could be in my hamstring, it could be in my calf. I could be in the middle of the night and just be woken up to severe pain like I've never experienced before, and a binding of that muscle or the muscles between my rib cage. And that was kind of unusual. And I just kind of shrugged it off like, oh, it's just a cramp, and didn't really relate it to the kidney part of it because nobody ever educated me that that's one of the symptoms of kidney failure. The other thing that was happening was I was getting extreme itching. I'm talking all body, every part of the skin on everywhere of my body. So arms, legs, back, very, very deep itching. Not painful, just like an incredible itch. So I was having to deal with these things, and I was never putting two and two together that this is part of the kidney problem. I thought I was allergic to the sheets in the hotel rooms from the soap that they were using and so on and so forth. But it turned out that that's called renal itch. That is actually the impurities that your kidneys are no longer able to remove from your body through your kidneys and bladder. Instead, it comes out in the skin, and those impurities make your body itchy. So that's kind of what happened up until the 30%. I started to realize this is happening, so on and so forth. And then the doctors told me I'm going to be needing dialysis soon. And I started to, I guess, panic a little bit, maybe not want to do dialysis. And therefore I was avoiding, going to the next step and just saying, yeah, we'll do that. And then it dropped to 25%. And then I was down to 20%. And then my symptoms were getting more severe. The hospital started calling and saying, the symptoms are going to get worse and you really need to start thinking about which method of dialysis you're going to use, whether it's going to be the PD, which is peritoneal, or if I'm going to do hemodialysis. And there are two very, very different methods of cleaning your blood. And I ended up going with the hemodialysis, which is in the hospital 3 days a week for 4 hours. And it just fit my lifestyle the best. And it's other than having that time that I can't get back that I spend in the hospital, the process is very, it's not a bad process at all. And I'm pretty happy with it so far. I didn't start dialysis until I was just under 10% function. I'm now at about 7%. When I did start dialysis about 1 year and 4 months ago, it was a blessing, actually, eventually to go on dialysis. But leading up to it, the fear that I had was deep and real. And it made me hesitate quite a bit to move forward, right? I could have started dialysis at 15%, but I was traveling still for my job. And the minute I start doing dialysis, I would be grounded because I have to be at the hospital 3 days a week. So I dealt with some of the pains and some of the symptoms. I had the fistula put in, but I wasn't quite ready to give up my normal lifestyle and job. And because there's a lot of financial burden that comes down when you have to change a job that you've been doing for 11 or 12 years, and now you're going to have to change careers and do something different. There's so much more to this dialysis than, it's just knowing what you're going to do now and how you're going to deal with it and what job can you do that you have to be, like I have to be to the hospital 3 days a week by 6 p.m., but I work now in Penticton. I have to leave work an hour and a half early, and there's a lot to it, right? So the process started with that fistula that I had put in my arm. So my forearm has this artery that is quite a bit larger now than the normal vein that ran through. And sometimes even because of that, I get a little bit of a numb hand because they've rerouted the blood vessel, the artery, the main artery that feeds my hand, one of them, and it's being rerouted to this vein. So that's kind of where it starts. You start to realize this is very real now, and you are going to be doing dialysis soon because they've had this operation done, and you have to go to the hospital and be prepped for that. And then they operate it, and then you see the fistula kind of growing. That vein starts to get larger than the normal one. And it's not the most attractive looking thing, but it's there for a reason, and that's to give us access to a healthy vein to put the needles in. So then, they're staying in touch at the hospital, and it was time for me to go for dialysis. So they kind of set a date, and they said, this is when you're going to start, and you're going to, I decided with them that Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays would be the best day for me. And I would have to go on the evening run. In Kelowna, they have a 5 to 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. run. They have an early morning run and they have a midday run. And for me, because I wanted to still work, I wanted to do the evening run. So we scheduled, after we did my fistula, I probably went about another month or 2 months, something like that, where I was just still working a normal job. And then it was time for me to do dialysis. So I went on a little bit of a leave of absence from my current work. And I was scheduled to come in. This is about 2 weeks out now. And I was scheduled to go in for my first day. And there's a lot of fear, of course, revolving. I kind of know what to expect based on, they got together with me prior to, and I spoke to a counselor and I spoke to doctors and and nurses, and they kind of tell you what's going to happen ahead of time. And then the day comes when you go in there and they treat you really well. Probably my heart rate was up a little bit and I had to sit in a chair basically, and I reclined the chair back and then expose the arm that's got the fistula, and then they put a cuff on the other side to take my blood pressure. And then they proceed to clean the area that they're going to put the needles in. And then they insert 2 Teflon needles into my arm. And they are kind of flexible needles with a very sharp point at the end. And those go into the arm and they have tubes connected to them. And those tubes run into the machine. So I have an import and an export, basically. One where the blood comes out of, and then it gets put back in below that. Comes in and goes out, comes in and goes out, and it runs through the machine. And then the machine does all this miraculous things that your kidneys would do. It cleans the blood and it filters the blood, and it removes the water that builds up in your body that your kidneys can no longer do. Sometimes in one session of 4 hours, they remove almost 8 pounds of fluid from my body, which is, for somebody who doesn't know, it's a large amount. My dialysis, it's 4 hours at a time, and you just sit in that chair for the full 4 hours. So I've watched a lot of TV series and a lot of movies. And I played a lot of games. So you have a lot of time to kill. I even work sometimes when I'm in there. So after dialysis, you have to hold the wounds, the sites where the needles were, for about 10 minutes to let your blood thicken and coagulate, and then fill the holes where the things. So the first time, I think the nurses did it for me, and then they showed me how to hold those sites. And then afterwards, I learned how to hold it myself, and then I just do it myself now. So they pull the needles out and we put gauze on it and tape. And then I just hold that for 10 minutes nonstop until your body has done its natural course of coagulating. And then they wrap it, and I leave that wrap on for about another couple hours. And when I get home in the evening, just before I go to sleep, I can usually remove that and maybe the Band-Aids they put on there as well. I finish at 10 o'clock on a Monday night, and I don't go back till 6 o'clock on the following Wednesday. So I have all Tuesday off and all Wednesday during the day. And then in the evening, I do the run on the Wednesday. Then I have Thursday off all day Friday. I go back Friday evening. And then I have Saturday, Sunday off. So all weekends off. For me, the hemo just gave me more freedom and more of a normal lifestyle.
Hey, honey, I lost the list for Jason's birthday thing. Obviously, hamburger, cakes. No, not hamburger cakes. Hamburgers and cake. And buns, sausage.
Talking. Ooh, eye candy.
Is it a full moon tonight? People are being weird. And don't forget to make the Facebook event private this time. Okay, bye.
Can you imagine losing most of something without realizing it? Over time, kidney disease can destroy up to 80% of kidney function before you notice any symptoms. Talk to your family doctor to see if you're at risk and need to be screened. It could save your life.
I didn't put two and two together. I just, for me, it was the doctors telling me this is happening and so on and so forth. They didn't say, be wary of these symptoms. And if you get itchy, don't worry, that's just the renal itch and, these type of things. And I just didn't know. So I stopped staying at certain hotels because I thought it was their sheets. And I was that oblivious and I didn't do a lot of reading on it. I wasn't very educated on what was happening. And that's why I decided to start the journey on Facebook a little bit. And because I thought maybe a kidney patient that didn't know what was going on or somebody has kidney disease could at least say, holy smokes, I can relate to that because I'm going through the same thing. And I didn't know that was related to the kidneys. I better go see my doctor. And some people, and I see them in the dialysis unit, they leave it too late. They come in a life-threatening situation where they are in sometimes cardiac arrest or their diabetes is sped up and they're losing limbs. And there's all sorts of negative things that if you leave your kidney disease too long, it can be non-reversible. If you catch it early, like when I was younger and I knew it was dropping 90%, 80%, had I have been a smarter person and started to focus on a healthier, low-fat, better diet with probably more vegetables and these type of things and less salt, I probably would have got several more years, if not lived my whole life with these same kidneys. But I definitely sped up the process because I was eating fast food and just didn't take it serious until it was too late. Now I'm on dialysis. I take certain pills that replace the kidney too. So not only do I go take the machine and have the machine clean my blood from all the impurities, but the kidneys do so much more than that. What I've learned is that they balance the electrolytes. So it can be, I don't even know all of the different electrolytes that it balances, but things like calcium and iron and all of these things that the kidneys would normally do on their own, I have to take extra pills or fluid when I'm in the dialysis unit. They have to give me iron once a month because I don't produce it naturally anymore and I don't receive it properly from what I eat and I can't maintain it. So I take several calcium pills daily and I take iron through intravenous, so it goes into the bloodstream through the machine. And I take like multivitamins that they give me that normally I would get from the food, but because my kidneys don't function properly, I have to take it through pills and stuff. So they do so much, and they're, other than the heart, they're probably the most important organ is the kidneys after that. When I started dialysis, I was told with my blood type, which I'm O type blood, I would be probably somewhere between 3 to 4 years before I would get a transplant. But it turns out, for whatever reason, that the transplant list they've had some success catching up on that list. And so I was told recently that I'm now on the active list. They actually had me go to Vancouver to St. Paul's recently for an interview with the doctors and also the social worker to get prepared and get set up for a transplant. So that means that basically after they do a bit more testing, I have to do quite a bit of blood work right now. They want to keep a monthly tab on my blood work, that if a transplant donor is found that matches my blood type in the next little while, then the transplant will move forward quickly. So I'm on what they call an active list now. And it could be any day now, like within days, weeks, or they said guaranteed this year. So 2023 will be my transplant year for sure. We don't know when. I'm told that I have about 8 hours from the time they call me to get to the hospital in Vancouver. I'm a 4-hour drive away. So that, if I'm at work, I'd have to race home, make sure that I'm prepared and ready to go with my medications. There's a lot of fear. There's so many phases of fear that come up with this. So with the transplant, I've got, the fear of the unknown, the fear of the rejection of the kidney, all of these things. And I have to stay down there in Vancouver for 3 months. The reason I have to stay down there is they have to monitor me quite closely for the first couple of months to make sure that the kidney is functioning properly and that there's no complications. The other thing I found out that's really interesting is they don't remove the existing kidneys because there's still function from those 2 kidneys I have right now, probably 6-7%, but they tether a third kidney down the line a little bit further down and just above the bladder. And so I'll have 3 kidneys functioning. So right now, for me, it's the lead up to it. It's the nervousness before, it's the unknown as to, will I survive the anesthesia? Like, there's so many different things that I'm fearful of. But at the end of the day, I trust these doctors. I've read quite a bit about it lately, but they've been doing transplants since the 50s. I think 1954 was the first transplant in the US, and I believe it's 1956 or 58 in Canada. So kidney transplants have been done for so long that the most of my fear is kind of, I guess, alleviated because they've been doing this for so long that I trust it'll be okay. So what is the first thing I want to do when I get the freedom to travel? I really think I want to spend some time relaxing and maybe going somewhere warm. And so, I've got 2 months in Vancouver, minimum 2 to 3 months, to kind of reflect on what I want to do with the rest of my life as far as income and jobs and all of these type of things. So I'm going to take that time to really dig deep and reflect on what I want to do. I definitely want to hug my family. So my daughter lives in Vancouver, and my wife will come down and visit me for the first week or 2 after the surgery. The first week I have to stay in the hospital. So, the normal time frame is 5 to 7 days after surgery that you're looked after by the nurses in the hospital. And then my family will look after me for the next month while I stay in a hotel close to. I'm gonna do a lot of walking. Once the wound is healed enough that I feel comfortable walking, I'm going to, I'll be downtown Vancouver, so I'm gonna walk around and put lots of kilometers on my soles.
Let's see, so kidney is a...
These are my grandpa's kidney stones. They're very precious.
Kidney is a bone in your back that helps you turn. I don't know, to be honest.
They don't know kidneys are vital, do you? Get the facts at kidney.ca.
When I first went on dialysis, I was kind of choked at the amount of pills I had to take. I probably have to take, somewhere around 9 or 10 pills daily. And I was kind of like, I'm not going to do that. I don't need all this stuff. Well, if you don't take calcium, it is very painful. And I had the feeling of a sharp heart attack pain like to the point where I had to be driven to the hospital thinking I was in cardiac arrest. And when I got there, they did a blood test and they saw my calcium was way too low. So there's a reason that when you go on dialysis that they give you what they give you, and make sure you take everything, all the pills that they tell you to take. Otherwise, you're going to experience severe pain. I can't emphasize enough. They know what they're talking about. They know what you need to take because they're checking your blood almost every time you go in. They do blood work and check where you're at, or at least once a month they check it. And if you're low in certain electrolytes, they're going to balance that. If you get too low on iron, you're going to feel it yourself. You'll be fatigued. If you get low on calcium, you can have severe chest pain. And so these are the things you learn if you're negligent. If you start to feel that you're getting cramping on a regular basis, or you're getting an itch, if they call it the renal itch, where your skin has a deep desire for you to scratch, and sometimes you even scratch your skin to the point where it bleeds, you need to go get help, and you need to move a little quicker than you might want to. And I promise you, at the end of the tunnel, there is a bright light. It is so much better to be on dialysis than to deal with that type of pain. And don't worry about the fear of dialysis, because I'm actually going to miss doing dialysis when the time comes. It's become a part of my routine. I'm going to miss the people that I spend time with. You know, I have nurses that are regulars with me, and that's how much I've come to accept and I won't say enjoy dialysis, but I enjoy the people that I've met, and I'm going to miss them. I recently just got back from Mexico. I did my dialysis when I was down in Mexico for the same times, although I did a morning run from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m., 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my normal times. And it was all arranged by the Kelowna General Hospital. There was a girl in there that assisted me. Her name is Alyssa. She was fantastic, and she got me and arranged everything down in Mexico.